It had been years since I'd gone back to Seafront Cove, and I hadn't planned to this summer either, until I saw his name in the group chat. Noah was going. That changed everything. Technically, it was just a casual beach reunion with a few friends from college. Low stakes, last minute, the kind of thing you only half commit to and somehow still end up overpacking for. But when I saw that Noah had typed, "I'll be there," wouldn't miss it, my decision was made before I even realized I'd already booked a train ticket. I told myself it was about nostalgia, about needing a break from the city. About how I missed the smell of salt on my skin, or the way the ocean sounded at night when everyone else had gone quiet. But I think I just missed him. Noah and I were never particularly close in the way other people might have defined it. We weren't roommates or part of the same clique. We had a kind of magnetic orbit. He was always just on the edge of my world and somehow still right at the center of my thoughts. He was that guy. The one who showed up late but always brought snacks. The one who surfed at sunrise and smelled like sunscreen and sea. The one who, for reasons I never admitted out loud, made me feel like I could breathe easier just by being around him. I stepped off the train with a duffel bag and a borrowed hoodie I'd stolen from a hookup months ago and never returned. The beach was only a short walk from the house we were all renting for the week. An old, weathered thing with blue shutters and a sagging porch that creaked like a ship at sea. When I got there, most of the group was already scattered along the shore, setting up chairs, laughing, reconnecting. And there he was, out in the surf, carving through a wave like it answered to him. I stood on the sand longer than I should have, pretending to be busy with my phone, heart thudding stupidly, watching him. Then he turned, caught sight of me and waved. Just a simple, easy wave. But I felt it in my chest. "Liam," he called out from the water, grinning. I raised a hand back, trying to act casual. I was here for the ocean, I told myself. For the break. For the nostalgia. But I already knew the truth. I came for Noah. I met Noah during sophomore year, on a rainy Wednesday that had soaked through my sneakers and my mood. I remember ducking into the campus cafe, shivering and miserable, only to find that every table was taken, except for the one he was sitting at, legs stretched out, headphones in, sketching in a notebook. I didn't want to interrupt, but he looked up before I could walk away. "Sit," he'd said simply, like it was obvious I belonged there. That was the start. We never got labeled as best friends, but somehow we always found each other in group settings, pairing off during hikes, splitting snack runs, ending up next to each other during movie nights. He wasn't loud about it either. He just gravitated. And I let him. Maybe I even mirrored it without realizing. Now, 2 years later, standing beside him on the beach, I felt that same ease in my chest, and the same restlessness in my stomach. "So, are you still drinking those iced lattes with way too much milk?" he asked, nudging my shoulder as we watched the sunset melt across the horizon. I smirked. "Only on days ending in Y." Noah laughed, one of those deep, genuine ones that made his nose crinkle slightly. "Got, some things never change. You still listen to sad indie music when it rains too? Bold of you to assume I ever stopped. That's tragic. Beautifully on brand though." His surfboard was resting between us in the sand, a spray of salt still glittering along the edge. He pulled his hoodie over his damp hair, shaking it out like a golden retriever, and I had to look away to hide the way my breath caught. "You didn't tell me you were coming," he said after a pause. "I wasn't sure I would," I admitted, towing at a shell half buried in the sand. "Then I saw your name in the chat." He glanced over at me, brow raised. "And that convinced you?" I shrugged, trying not to meet his gaze for too long. "Maybe." A gust of wind blew in off the water and we both shivered. The sun was almost down, the light slipping into that soft golden hour haze. The rest of the group had wandered back to the house, leaving just the two of us. It felt like something out of a movie, too picturesque, too quiet, and yet the tension humming under my skin was real enough to make me dizzy. "You got your sleeping stuff set up yet?" he asked casually. "Not yet." I claimed the corner of the living room. "Dude," he said, mock horrified, "that's gonna be freezing. The draft comes right through that screen door. Didn't you sleep there last time and wake up with a sore neck?" "Yeah," I said, chuckling. "Also, someone stepped on my foot around 3 a.m. "Probably Micah," he said with a grin. "He sleepwalks when he's drunk." "I'm honestly not surprised." He paused, then added, "There's space in my room. If you want. I've got that huge sleeping bag, you could crash on top of it." My pulse kicked up a notch, but I nodded like it was no big deal. "Thanks. Might take you up on that." He didn't look away. "You should." There was something in his voice, not a challenge, not even flirtation exactly, but warmth. Invitation. The kind of offer that left room for things unsaid. We stood there until the last of the sunlight dipped below the waves. When he brushed past me to grab his board, his arm barely grazed mine. I felt that brief, warm contact like a spark, and I just knew that I wasn't imagining it anymore. The feeling was mutual. Or at least I wanted to believe it was. That night the weather turned. It had been warm all day, one of those breezy, sun-kissed afternoons that tricks you into thinking summer is endless. But sometime after midnight the temperature dropped fast, and by 2 a.m., a storm rolled in off the ocean like it was chasing something. I'd been dozing on the couch, cocooned in an old beach towel, when a crack of thunder snapped me awake. The draft Noah had warned me about was real. I could feel it creeping under the screen door, needling into my legs. I curled tighter and debated whether I could tough it out until sunrise. Then I heard a voice from the hallway. "Liam?" I sat up groggily. Noah stood there, hair tousled from sleep, wearing nothing but boxers and an oversized hoodie that hung just below his hips. I tried not to look. I failed. "Still alive out here?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. "I swear it sounds like the house is gonna blow away." "Barely," I muttered. "I think I lost circulation in one foot. Might have to amputate." He grinned and stepped closer, holding something in his hand. "Here. Blanket peace offering. Also, you should just come into my room before you freeze to death." I hesitated, more awake now, heart picking up its pace. "Are you sure?" Noah raised an eyebrow. "You really think I'm gonna let you turn into a popsicle out here just for pride?" I didn't have a good argument for that, so I followed him. His room was dim, lit only by the soft flicker of a string of fairy lights he'd strung along the window frame. It smelled like sea salt and cedar and something else, something warm, unmistakably him. I stood awkwardly by the door while he flopped back onto the mattress, the sleeping bag he'd promised already unrolled on the floor. "Make yourself at home," he said through a yawn. I slid down into the sleeping bag, pulling it over my shoulders. It was warmer than I expected. Softer too. The muffled rumble of thunder outside made the room feel even smaller, more enclosed. The air buzzed quietly between us. "Hey," he said, voice quieter now. "You okay?" I turned my head toward him. He was lying on his side, head propped on one arm, watching me with that unreadable expression he sometimes wore when he thought no one was paying attention. "Yeah," I said. "Just hard to sleep, I guess." "Storm?" I nodded. "That was part of it. You always used to stay up late when it rained. Remember that camping trip senior year? You sat outside the tent and just listened for like 2 hours. You remember that?" Noah shrugged, but his smile was soft. "I remember more than you think." My throat tightened. I looked away, pretending to smooth the sleeping bag around me. I wanted to say something, to ask what he meant. But the words felt too heavy, like if I let even one out, the rest would spill over and I wouldn't be able to stop them. The silence stretched. And then I felt it, his hand brushing mine. At first I thought it was an accident. But he didn't move it away. His fingers lingered there just enough to make my breath catch. I looked at him. Neither of us said a word. He didn't pull away and I didn't either. But I didn't reach back, not fully. My fingers stayed still, aching to curl into his, but frozen. Because what if I misread it? What if I crossed a line? What if this soft, perfect moment was just a friendship, and I was about to ruin it? My heart was thudding loud enough I was sure he could hear it. I tried to focus on the storm, on the hum of the wind, on anything but the warmth of his fingers so close to mine. And then, like he could feel the static rising between us, he spoke again. "You've been weird since you got here." I flinched. "Weird?" "Yeah. Quieter. You don't look at me the same." My chest squeezed tight. "Maybe I just have a lot on my mind." "Yeah." He shifted, resting his head fully on the pillow now. "Anything I should know about?" His voice was so gentle, but it carried weight, like he wanted the answer even if he wasn't sure what it would be. I swallowed. "I don't know. Liam." My name on his lips was soft but firm. And I wanted so badly to answer him honestly, to tell him everything. But instead I whispered, "It's nothing. I'm just tired." A flicker of disappointment crossed his face, brief but real. He didn't press. He just nodded once and rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. We didn't speak again that night. But I didn't sleep either. Not with the heat of his hand still ghosting over mine. Not with the weight of the words I didn't say pressing against my ribs. And not with the growing suspicion that maybe, just maybe, he was waiting for me to say them. The next morning was quiet in that hazy, post-storm way. The sky was overcast, the air damp and still, and the usual sounds of our group, laughter in the kitchen, music playing too loud, were oddly muted. I stayed in Noah's room longer than I should have, pretending to scroll through my phone while he stretched and pulled on a t-shirt, his hair still damp from the quick rinse in the shower. He glanced at me as he slung his towel over the back of a chair. "You heading out to the beach?" I shook my head. "Might just hang around here for a bit." He nodded slowly, lips pressed together like he had more to say but wasn't sure how to say it. Then he left the room without another word. I exhaled, shoulders slumping. I hated how awkward things had felt since last night. Not because anything had happened, but because something almost did and I wasn't brave enough to let it. Hours passed. The others came and went, dragging beach towels and snacks and Bluetooth speakers around like we were still college kids with nothing to lose. I tried to join in. I really did. But every time I looked at Noah, laughing with Micah near the dunes or running a hand through his hair after a dip in the ocean, I felt like my chest was full of static. By late afternoon I couldn't take it anymore. I needed air. Space. Him. I found him alone, waxing his board by the porch steps, lost in thought. I hovered for a second, heart pounding so hard it almost drowned out the sound of the waves. "Noah?" He glanced up, squinting against the sun. "Yeah." I hesitated, gripping the edge of the porch railing like it could ground me. "Can we talk?" He didn't answer immediately. But he set the board aside, dusted his hands on his shorts and nodded. We walked down the path to the beach in silence. The tide had pulled out, leaving little tide pools and scattered shells behind. We stopped near the rocks at the edge of the cove, far from where the others would see or hear us. I stared out at the horizon, trying to calm the hurricane building inside me. He stood beside me, waiting. I've been quiet because I started then stopped. My throat felt tight. Because I've been trying to talk myself out of something. He didn't move, but I could feel his attention shift, like his whole body was listening. I told myself this was just a getaway. That I came for the beach, for the group. But that's not true. I forced myself to meet his gaze. "I came because I knew you'd be here." His brow furrowed just slightly. "And last night," I went on, voice barely above a whisper, "when you offered your room, when you touched my hand, I wanted to reach back. I wanted to. But I panicked." Noah was still, completely still, like any movement would shatter the moment. "I've been feeling this thing for a long time and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't even know if I was just seeing something that wasn't there." I swallowed hard. "But I can't keep pretending I don't feel it anymore. I like you. Not just as a friend. Not just as someone I happen to keep orbiting around." My voice cracked. "I like you in the way that scares me. In the way that's kept me up at night wondering if I'd ruin everything by saying it out loud." Noah's lips parted slightly, but he didn't speak right away. His face was unreadable, and for a heartbeat, the silence stretched so long I felt sick. Then he exhaled a soft breath. "Jesus, Liam?" He stepped forward, close enough that our arms almost touched. His eyes searched mine and there was something in them. Shock, yes, but also something softer. Something real. "You think you've been hiding it?" he said, voice low. "You think I haven't noticed?" My heart leapt, then stumbled. "Wait, you?" "I've been trying to play it cool for years," he admitted, voice rough. "But then you didn't come to graduation and I thought maybe I imagined it all. That I'd made this thing up in my head. I didn't come because I was scared," I said quickly. "Because I knew if I saw you I'd say something. And I wasn't ready to lose you." His jaw clenched slightly but his expression stayed soft. "You wouldn't have." We were quiet again. The only sound was the waves lapping at the shore, steady and patient, like they had all the time in the world. "I touched your hand last night on purpose," he said finally, voice even quieter than mine had been. "I wanted to see if you'd pull away. And you didn't?" "Not completely. I didn't want to." "I know." And then he reached out, his fingers brushing against mine again, but this time he didn't hesitate. He slid his hand into mine, warm and certain, and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for years. "I was scared too," he murmured. "But not anymore." I looked up at him, his eyes steady on mine, and I saw it, everything I'd been afraid to believe. Affection. Longing. Relief. I didn't know who leaned in first, but suddenly his forehead was resting against mine, our noses brushing, and I felt his breath on my lips. "This okay?" he whispered. I nodded. "Yeah." And when he kissed me, slow, hesitant, like he was memorizing the moment, I didn't freeze. I kissed him back. It wasn't fireworks. It was something quieter. More honest. A release of all the words we never said, all the nights we almost did. It was the kind of kiss that made me wonder how I'd ever gone this long without knowing how he tasted, how he felt under my hands, how he sighed softly against my mouth like he'd been waiting just as long. When we pulled back, he pressed his forehead to mine again and laughed, breathless. "Well," he said. Guess we're not sleeping on opposite sides of the room tonight. I laughed too, and the sound surprised me, light, unburdened, free. No, I said, smiling so wide it almost hurt. I don't think we are. He kissed me again, quick and sure, then laced our fingers tighter together. And we just stood there, facing the ocean, the storm finally behind us. We didn't go back to the house right away. Instead, we found a flat rock along the cove wall and sat side by side, legs brushing just slightly, still holding hands like we weren't ready to let go, not even for a second. The sky had shifted to that soft, golden tint again, clouds thinning out, sunlight slipping through like forgiveness. Neither of us said much at first. We just were. And for once that was enough. Noah leaned back on his palms and tilted his face toward the sky. That felt like a movie, he said eventually, voice light but still a little dazed. Except way less dramatic music and a lot more sand in my shoes. I laughed. Yeah, if this were a movie, I think there'd be a montage right now. You teaching me how to surf while I flail. Oh, that's happening. Regardless of our romantic subplot. I grinned, nudging him with my shoulder. I'll warn you now, I have the balance of a drunk toddler. I believe in you. I also believe in the comedic value of watching you wipe out. There was something so easy about us now, like a knot had finally been untied. Our banter had always been quick, familiar, but now there was something else beneath it. Every word, every glance carried a weight I wasn't used to. A sweetness. He looked at me more serious now. You okay? I nodded. Weirdly, yeah. I thought I'd be more freaked out, but it just feels right. Like I've been holding my breath for years and didn't know it. Same. His thumb brushed along the side of my hand, slow and thoughtful. I kept waiting for the right moment to say something, but I was scared I'd read it wrong. That you'd laugh or pull away or just not feel the same. Do I seem like I'm pulling away? I asked, lifting our joined hands a little. He smiled and shook his head. Not even close. We sat in silence for another beat. The breeze picked up, carrying the faint scent of salt and sunscreen and something floral from the dunes. So, I said, drawing a line in the sand with my toe, what happens when this trip ends? We go back to our regular lives. Different cities. Real schedules. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I've been thinking about moving anyway. Work's remote now, so it doesn't really matter where I am. I turned to him, heart skipping. Are you serious? He shrugged, but there was a softness in his eyes. I mean, maybe it's too soon to say anything like that. But I'd make the trip. For you. If this is something real. I smiled, feeling that warm rush of disbelief and certainty all at once. It is. Good. He leaned in and kissed my cheek. Then we'll figure it out. The sun was dipping low, and I knew people would start looking for us soon. But I didn't want to go back just yet, not when the world felt this small and perfect. You know they're going to tease the hell out of us, right? I said. Oh yeah, he said, smirking. Mike is gonna lose his mind. I give it 2 hours before someone makes a fake couples trivia quiz. Can't wait. He bumped his shoulder into mine. You're not backing out now, are you? Not a chance. We stood, brushing the sand off our clothes, still tangled in each other's space. He reached for my hand again like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe now, it was. As we walked back toward the house, toward the noise and the questions and the future that waited beyond the porch light, I glanced at him. He smiled. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was watching from the outside. I was part of it, us. Whatever happened next, we'd face it together. Later that night, long after the sun had vanished and the fire pit out back had become the center of everyone's attention, Noah and I sat curled up together on one of the old wicker couches. The others were busy toasting marshmallows, shouting over card games, and arguing about whether or not the stars above us were actually that much brighter out here, or if the wine was just making everything feel more magical. Noah's thigh pressed against mine. His arm rested along the back of the couch behind me, not quite holding me but close enough to feel his warmth. Every once in a while, he'd look over and meet my gaze like he still couldn't believe this was real. I knew the feeling. All right, Micah said loudly, standing in front of the fire with a beer in one hand and his phone in the other. Pop quiz. How many years have Liam and Noah been secretly in love? Laughter erupted around the circle. I groaned, hiding my face behind my hands. Micah, I muttered. I swear to God. What? It's a valid trivia category. I feel lied to. Noah just grinned and reached down to pull my hand away. 2.5, give or take, he called out to the group. I blinked. You count it? He turned to me, the firelight catching his eyes just right. I noticed. Every time. And just like that, the noise of the group faded. I barely heard the whooping or the teasing that followed. It was just him, the quiet honesty in his voice, and the way his fingers finally found mine again and laced them together under the blanket. Later, when the fire had burned low and people began to drift off to their rooms, Noah tugged my hand gently. "Come on," he said, his voice soft enough that only I could hear it. We didn't go inside right away. Instead, he led me down to the beach, where the sand was cool under our bare feet and the tide had crept in again. The moon hung low and full, painting the ocean in silver. It felt like the world had gone still just for us. We stopped near the edge of the water, the hem of his jeans already damp, and he turned to face me. "This feels real, right?" he asked. "It is real," I said without hesitation. "I don't know what's coming next, but I want to find out with you." He nodded, eyes shining. "I've always kind of been waiting for you, you know? Even when I didn't realize it." I smiled, stepping closer. "Then let's not waste any more time." He pulled me into him, arms winding around my waist like it was second nature now. We kissed, slow and steady this time, no hesitation, no fear. When we finally pulled apart, he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and whispered, "I want to see what this looks like every day. Not just here, not just during trips. All of it. You and me." A wave lapped gently at our feet. I nodded. "Let's make it real. Whatever it takes." He grinned and leaned in again, forehead resting against mine. "You're gonna be stuck with me, you know?" "Good," I murmured. "I've been stuck on you for years." And there, under the moonlight with our shoes forgotten somewhere behind us and the surf curling around our ankles, I knew this wasn't just the end of a beach trip. It was the start of something bigger. Something lasting. We turned back toward the house hand in hand, two silhouettes in the dark, hearts finally out in the open. And for the first time, the future didn't feel uncertain. It felt ours.